Hi guys, good morning. Today we are starting afresh with a new topic. We studied, um, Heikeneishi candles in every possible scenario. We studied Heikeneishi candles in, how do you trade intraday? How do you trade with positional trades, and how do you trade with crude oil? Of course, the crude oil strategy you can apply on all the commodity, all the commodities, like for example nickel, or you can apply it on aluminum, or you can apply it on various other, you can apply it on copper. Wherever you have more, what do you say, volatility, you can apply Heikeneishi candles over there. So today I'm starting another, technical instrument that I'm going to be talking about, and today's topic is how to trade using pivot points. I believe it's a very, very important topic. If you understand pivot points, how they are calculated, what's the correlation, why should they be, we should learn about them, and what's the importance, you will be able to apply them in a better way. So, what are pivot points? Pivot points are basically is a technical analysis indicator used to determine the overall trend of the market over different time frames. Means one day, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, each of them will have their own pivot points, right? And like it's determined from the previous day. Like for example, if we if we are looking into, one day, then 1 day time frame, if you so you can calculate, if you want to use intraday, pivot points, you can calculate them from previous day high, low, and close. I'm just going to explain how pivot points are calculated. The pivot points itself is simply the average of the high, low, and closing prices from the previous trading day. And then on the subsequent day, trading above the pivot point is thought to indicate ongoing bullish sentiment, while the trading below the pivot point indicates bearish sentiment. And I'm sure you must have watched all my videos, and I always say that Nifty opened the pivot point, and hence its sentiment are positive. So let's just go there and see, or before that, let's just see the next point, and then we will go to the graph and see what's happening over there, right? So how do you really calculate the pivot points? So pivot point, basically the main pivot point, which I'm going to just show you on Zerodha's graph, is basically previous day high plus previous day low plus previous day close upon 3, right? You take the average of high, low, and close. And that's the main pivot point. Like the price is supposed to be centered at this point. And if the price is above it, you call it bullish. And if the opening price is below this point, then you call it bearish. So how do you calculate R1, R2, R3, S1, S2, S3, and what are they before we go on? So let me take you to the, any of the Nifty's graph, or any chart graph that you see. The one you see here in the middle, the black color line, is actually the pivot point. Then on top you have S1, then you have S2, then you have way above, you have S3, right? You can somewhere way above, here is S3. This particular point is S3. Similarly, in the downward direction, you will have S1, this is S1, then S2, and then way below you will get S3, right? Way below. Somewhere pretty down, somewhere you will get S3 somewhere here, right? So what I'm trying to tell you here is these levels are very, very important level, right? So whenever levels are crossed with volume, see here, then you can be sure that that particular instrument is planning to go down, or that particular instrument is taking a support. So pivot points behave majorly as support and resistance, right? So let's go back to our slides and see what lies ahead, right? Let's go back to our slides and see what lies ahead. So how do you calculate resistance? R1, it is double the pivot point minus low of the previous period. Support 1 is double the pivot point minus high of the previous. Resistance R2 is equal to pivot point minus support of the previous day plus resistance of the previous day, and so on and so forth. You have all the calculations here. Now, we are living in an era when, we get everything so easily. So Zerodha and all the charting softwares that you have, you know, so those provide pre-calculated, these pivot levels. So this is basically pivot point. This is R1, above it is R2, and way above is R3. And similarly, you get it for different stocks. If I put any stock, you'll be able to see these levels, right? All the levels you will be able to see. Now, how are these levels traded? So that is something very, very important. You have to watch out for the levels. It could be 5 minutes time frame if you're doing the intraday. See the double top and pivot point resistance, and the stock has come down. See here. Now, as I analyze for you Nifty every day, what I tell you, if Nifty opens the gap up, right, the stance of Nifty is positive. Today, Nifty open gap up, the stance of Nifty is positive. It dropped till what point? Till it got a support from the pivot point. It's a major support, right? Look at it. So beautifully it's standing over here. And once, twice, thrice, 15 minutes it's been taking support on this level. Same way you can go to 15 minutes and see what's happening over there. Right? Again, see in 15 minutes also clearly Nifty is taking the support, right? So it's not necessary. I mean, I'm talking about Nifty, but it can be a stock, it can be anything that you want to, any instrument in the stock market that you can look into. Let's say VEDL. Let's look into VEDL, right? It is open way above, this is pivot point, this is R1, this is R2. It's open above R2 and it has gone way above R3 also. It's further heading up, right? So when these R1, R2, R3, S1, S2, S3 are boundaries. When an instrument demolishes that boundary, it means they are ready to take a flight either in the upward direction or in the downward direction. And as I have been always saying, to me, metal sector looks very, very positive. And I'm pretty much sure Nifty should also take a bounce, right? Nifty should also take a bounce from here. In 15 minutes, it's taking a good support. It's got a solid support at the bottom in the form of pivot points. So when would I believe that Nifty is in the uptrend? When Nifty crosses 10,590, which is one of its GAN level is 10,581 or 82, and the next GAN level is basically 10,590. When Nifty crosses this, we would be in a situation to say yes, Nifty is in uptrend. All right. Now let's go to the next sheet and see what's there. So we can calculate now you don't need to calculate, but you should know about it, because knowing is important. Then you will be able to have a clear perspective. Then why traders love pivot points? I love pivot points because I believe it gives me a lot of clarity when I'm trading intraday. So it's basically unique for each day, right? The pivot points are unique for each day. It's not that you carry forward from the previous day. It's unique for each day. The pivot points formula takes data from the previous trading day and applies it to the current trading day. In this manner, the levels you're looking at are applicable only to the current trading day. This makes the pivot points the ultimate indicator for the day traders, right? Most of the intraday traders use pivot points. Then short time frame. Since pivot points data pivot point data is from a single trading day, the indicator could only be applied to short time frames. The daily and the 30-minute chart would not work because it will show only one or two candles. So I would say, I will modify it into day traders should use, pivot points from 5 minutes or from 15 minutes, right? And if you're trading in long-term stocks, then you can consider monthly pivot points on the daily chart. The best time for pivot point trading is this is too short a time frame. Like I would prefer 5 minutes and 15 minutes. All right. Then the accuracy is very high. The pivot points are basically as all of intraday traders trade using pivot points, they actually have sentimental values also attached. People know that these are the resistances and these are the supports. So, you know, that is why it is important for us to know all our accurate levels. The pivot point indicator is one of the most accurate trading tools. The reason for this is that the indicator is used by many traders. This will allow us to trade with the overall flow of the market. So if we know that with volumes the levels have been broken, means market is going to head up in that particular direction only. I'm just going to show you this with the help of graph. So pivot points on charts provide a rich set of data. As we discussed above, the indicator gives 7 separate trading levels, right? So pivot point is 1, then R1, R2, R3, S1, S2, S3. So we get 7 levels of trading. This is definitely enough to take a day trader through the trading session, right? And ease of use. So now you get it pre-calculated by all the software. So there's nothing that you need to sit back and calculate. There's nothing that you need to apply separately. The PPT indicator, the pivot point indicator is an easy to use trading tool. Most of the trading platforms offer this type of indicator. This means that you are not required to calculate the separate levels. I've told many times, when I just started learning 15 years back, my mentor used to ask me to calculate it every single day. We didn't have that time, these calculators. So I used to put it on Excel and find out, putting up the formula, and sometimes just calculate manually and physically, like taking a calculator. But now almost all the, platforms, trading platforms, they provide you pre-calculated levels. This means that you're not required to calculate the separate levels. The trading sim platform will, of course, only, I mean, anything, this I've taken from trading sim, but you can take anything that you want to any platform. I mean, I've seen it in Zerodha, I've seen it in Fires, I've seen Upstocks, I've seen it in, you know, all of them. So any platform will provide you all these, pivot points. And pivot points are significant level chartists can use to determine the direction and the movement and potential support and the resistance level. And let's okay, this is our contact uh, uh, slide, but we'll come back to this later on. Let's look into the Nifty levels. Or in particularly Nifty plays a very, very major role. Like I personally use that a lot. So every time, how do you judge the direction of the Nifty? See whether it open gap up or gap down. So if it opens gap up, means its stance is positive, right? Today also Nifty has opened gap up. You can see it here. Nifty came down, but again took a support from the pivot point and trying to go up. So let's see how it goes. That we will check, with other available data. But right now, today, my objective of this video is to help you understand pivot points. So see here, this is pivot point. Every time you will see pivot points will be honored. Or I mean, you will see every time Nifty breaks them with volumes, it means it does plan to go in the upward direction. Every time it comes near pivot point, it will experience a resistance. Every time it breaks, so where this is behaving as a resistance, and this, if it breaks, it could have been a support. Like for 15, this is a 15 minutes graph, half an hour it behaved like a support, but next 45th minute it went down with momentum, and see how it fell after that, right? So every time, you can see crossing over, this is a big hurdle, like it's a big psychological hurdle, and that if it is broken, Nifty suddenly gets the momentum. If it's broken in the upper direction, Nifty moves up, and if it's broken in the downward direction, then Nifty moves down. See here, Nifty opened gap up, but with volumes, it broke this pivot point, and then next candle again was below, and it broke the morning range, and it went down considerably. So pivot points are very, very important. And as far as I'm concerned, I really look for, pivot points in one day for stocks, because I feel they play a major role. So for example, I've seen time and again, whenever Apollo Tyres comes to, I mean, it happens in many, but this is one stock that I've been observing very, very closely. Whenever it tries to, whenever it come across, the pivot point, it definitely experiences resistance. For example, it went up, and when it came close to the pivot point, it experienced resistance and came down. Similarly, it went up, crossed it, but again came down. I want to show you previously also it has experienced resistance. Then see here again, it went up, but it couldn't sustain and came down. I have seen Apollo Tyres again a resistance and came down, again a resistance and came down. I've seen this experience, this particular stock, Apollo Tyres, I've seen many times it experiences resistance from pivot point. For it to, I mean, if you want to trade in Apollo Tyres, you have to really, really ensure that it is above the pivot point resistance, or it is taking a support on the pivot point, or if you want to short it, then it should be below, the pivot point. So every time I've seen, I mean, I'm sure it exists for all the stocks, but I have been observing this, Apollo Tyres, so I'm pretty much sure about it. In 1 day time frame, look at Dr. Reddy, went up and took a resistance and came down, right? And like that, you can see it here, pivot point, took a resistance and came down. So if you're trading in long-term perspective in stocks, please ensure that there is no barrier in the form of pivot point on the head. Or if you want to trade, then ensure that stock has crossed the barrier of pivot point over its head, right? That is what I particularly use. So if you're doing intraday trading, your time frame should be 15 minutes or 5 minutes, and if you're doing the long term trading, then your time period should be, now see here, this is Dr. Reddy. You can see it opened gap up but then crossed with volumes in the downward direction. Again, here you can see it experienced a resistance. So every time pivot points behave is respected by the stocks, whether it is going up or it's going down, um, stock is going down or going up, it always is, the behavior of stocks movement can be determined by looking at how it is, treating the pivot point. Does it consider as a support or the resistance, or does it cross it with momentum, either in the upward direction or in the downward direction? If the stock crosses with momentum in the upward or the downward direction, then you can see the momentum coming in that particular direction. So what I'm saying, use pivot point, because that will refine, modify, and perfect your trading style. Like uh, in moving averages, beyond moving averages, you can have another set of resistances and the supports, and they come in the form of pivot point. So see here, this is pivot point. You can see top, there is a resistance. Bottom, I'm looking into this part. And the stock is entire day stuck up within these two pivot points. That is also a possibility, right? Very often this happens too. So intraday traders must master, the 5 minutes and the 15 minutes supports and the resistances in the form of pivot point. And if you're a long term, like if you are a long term investor, if you're looking for a trade in stocks for a few days, then you should definitely consider its 1 day time frame, right? You should definitely consider its 1 day time frame, right? So once again, quickly, I'm just going to reiterate the whole thing that we have discussed today. So let's go back. So first and foremost, that how do you calculate pivot points? It's previous day's high plus low plus close upon 3, and then you calculate R1, R2, R3, S1, S2, S3. In all, there are 7 levels of trading, and trust me, they are respected. So if you're an intraday trader, look for 5 minutes and 15 minutes. And if you're a positional trader and you want to do a long-term trade, if I'm saying, it could be a swing trade of a couple of days, or it could be positional trade for about 15 days in future option or wherever, you please consider the, 1 day time frame for stocks. And definitely there are, it's very, very easy to use. And these pivot points behave as support and the resistance, right? And if these are boundaries, so if these boundaries are demolished with volumes, the that will decide the direction of the movement, right? If the boundaries are demolished in the upper direction with volumes, means the stock is planning to go up. If the boundaries are demolished in the downward direction with momentum, with volumes, means the stock is planning to go down. Besides that, many a times stock falls till a certain pivot point, takes a resistance and bounces back. Similarly, when a stock is going up and up and up, it experiences a resistance from the pivot point and comes down from there, right? But definitely include them in your trading process, because pivot points is a very, very important, criteria for trading. So I definitely look into all the pivot points always, whether it's day trading, positional trading, any kind of trading, because they provide me important support and the resistance levels. So if you want to learn more about it, now we have, before I forget, I we have started with our, one of the course will be launched maybe the day after. This is Nifty trading course. And as I've told you time and again, that most of the money that we generate in the Nifty trading course, right? Please, you can join it. And I'm sure this is nothing when you will consider, the amount of, confidence in the way to trade in Nifty you will get. And as I told you, Nifty is the most liquid, instrument on stock market. And this is barely nothing, it's just nothing, the kind of strategies that you will get to trade in Nifty. And I trade every day into Nifty, as I was telling you yesterday. Nowadays I have made rule that every day whatever is my profit, I will take it home. It'll be my take home, definitely. So learn from here. And if you want to contact my team, you have all the information here. You can go to the this is our email, www.stockprotraining.com. You can join us on the Telegram, and you can watch my YouTube, at Stock Pro. You know that. You can even watch Stock Pro Hindi, although I've not made for quite some time, but I'll be soon making Hindi videos. Just give me one more week. Next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend I'm in Delhi. I'm back in Delhi, and I'm going to be making, only thing that I'll be doing now, concentrating on the teaching part, right? Then you can go to the Twitter on Stock Pro Team and talk to my team over there, or you can join us on the Facebook, which is facebook.com/Stock Pro Training. So various ways and means, and of course you have direct approach to my website, and you can go there and join us, contact us through the contact us. You can use any of these methods and talk to my team. So this is what I wanted to share. Guys, keep learning, and thank you all for writing wonderful comments, and it motivates me to work harder. But please understand, sometimes, you can also calculate, or even if you don't calculate, you can keep it in your mind what are the pivot points for Nifty, at least, and since you're talking about the Nifty, I mean, you will have to calculate its futures pivot point. So future may, in today's future, if we look into today, the future pivot point was at 10,556, 10,590. This was also one of the GAN level, and 10,580 is also one of the GAN level. So if Nifty crosses 10,580, the GAN level, first GAN level, it'll go up, and it'll be its breaking of the morning range as well. Then if it breaks this pivot point, it'll further go up. As of now, the sentiments to me are looking pretty positive, and I can check Nifty what's happening to it. So there seems to be a boundary, huge boundary at 10,600, but that's very far away right now. It's about 40 points away. So just be careful. It may go up and then come back quickly, the way it did yesterday. It went up, 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 and then quickly touched 10,600, roughly 10,600, very close to 10,000. It went to 10,596 and immediately returned back. So there may be, similar scenario today as well, until the option changes. So with this, I'm signing off, but I'm definitely waiting for you at my, training program. And definitely, I'm hoping that you all are learning and not wasting your money, not gambling in the market with your hard-earned money. So good day, guys. Bye bye. Take care. Take care of your trades and trade in the right direction with perfect understanding. Bye bye. Good day. See you tomorrow. But Hindi videos I'll be soon making. Don't worry. Bye. Take care.